Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Here's my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to the Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
And he is your co-host, Sandro Luketic. And today we're talking 1989's Dead Calm. We assume if you're listening to this episode, you have already seen the movie. And I thought I had, but apparently I didn't. How did this selection come up for you?
Yeah, I think I told you last week. I was literally looking through a list of random 80s movies. This one came up. I had never seen it before, never heard of it. Just saw that Billy Zane and Sam Neill were in it, and I thought, okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, was it a list of horror films or just 80s movies in general?
I literally just searched 80s movies.
Okay, I always thought this was a horror movie.
It's listed as a horror thriller, but I don't see where the horror comes from. Like, even last week, I introduced it as the horror thriller from 1989. I'm like, there's no horror. It's definitely a thriller. There's no horror.
Like nautical maritime thriller, maybe?
Is that a question? Is that an inflection?
It's an open question because I don't even really know. I honestly don't even really know how I feel about this movie. So I'm hoping through us talking about it, we'll like solidify some feeling, some sentiment about it. But it's interesting nonetheless. Less. But it's weird because like it's directed by Phillip Noyce, who did one of my favorite movies, Blind Fury, with Rutger Hauer. But he also did like The Patriot Games, Sliver, Clear and Present Danger, The Saint, The Bone Collector. Like, he knows how to do thrillers, not really horrors. And even the writer, Terry Hayes, dude, like, we're getting a pedigree of Australian filmmaking talent because he wrote The Road Warrior, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, Cliffhanger, Vertical Limit, From Hell, Reign of Fire, Flight Plan. So he also knows how to write thrillers. So not really horror, but thriller. Also, I should say that George Miller, who created the Mad Max franchise, was a producer on the movie. So like knowing that, I think I would have been more prepared for what we got in this movie. Because I was ready for like a slasher film at sea. Not what we got.
No. You sound a little disappointed. Well, let's dig deep into that one.
Do you want me to talk about my feelings or want to go right into the plot?
Well, I'm sure as we go through the plot, I'll get a better idea of your feelings towards it.
Yeah. Let's go with the up on that one. So the film opens with sailors returning home for Christmas on a subway train. We meet Royal Australian Navy officer John Ingram, played by Sam Neill. The sailors' families are waiting to greet them at the station, but no one's there for John, and that's because we find out that there was a car accident involving his wife, Ray, played by Nicole Kidman, and their son, with Ray being the sole survivor.
Yeah, that's rough way to start.
Dark. I have my first note here is, what a fucking downer of an opening.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by, that kid flies through that windshield.
We would have gotten the point without watching him fly through the windshield.
You don't even have to show the kid. You just show Nicole Kidman's reaction, and that's enough for me.
Glass shatter, sounds, anything. You did not need to show that. That kid went straight through like a torpedo.
Yeah. Which means figure out how to work your car seat, Ray.
And I'm sorry, even in the 80s, no kid's just going to undo a car seat like that. No. But I guess it wouldn't have worked for the plot otherwise.
And for being the sole survivor, she's not looking too bad. Like, she has a cut on her head and her mouth is bloody.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't go through the windshield.
I guess, but still, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work for me. What also doesn't work for me is when John shows up at the hospital and the doctor is like, talk to her, and then aggressively opens her eyes. Like, just leave the woman be.
Does
Like,
it help? We think so.
Yeah. This is my first day. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but you know how when someone dies, you close their eyes? I figure if they're kind of alive, you just rip them open and everything's fine.
How long did you wait? It wasn't long. How long did she wait? 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's so messed up.
If you had the answer, just answer the first time.
Like, this is supposed to set the tone for the movie. The tone I got at this point is, what the fuck is happening? But it does settle because next we cut to present day. The accident footage we saw is a flashback, and Ray's seeing it as she's having a nightmare. She and John are on their yacht on a pseudo vacation, allowing them both time together to recover from the tragedy.
That seems like a really odd therapy practice.
Yeah, let's go into isolation.
You need to get over your lost son. Go out to sea together for a while. And like John makes sure to reiterate, like, the doctor said we need this.
Yeah. And Ray says a line as he wakes her up from this nightmare that just makes me go, I don't want to watch this movie anymore. Okay. And that is, she's screaming, John, I could smell his hair. I'm like, fuck, I do not have children. This ruined me from the very beginning, and I don't want to watch it anymore. Like, it's so unbalanced. And then there's like tragedies dealt with so flippantly, and then you get lines like that, which just break your heart. And like, the movies confused me at this point.
Yeah, and she's just like, I want to go home. I want to go home.
Yeah. It's like, no, we have to isolate ourselves at sea for months.
Where no one can help us, and there's no therapist around to continue with this supposed treatment. Okay.
Yeah. I do have to say that below deck on that boat is both beautiful and the most claustrophobic thing I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have always had recurring nightmares of being trapped below deck as a boat is sinking, and it's not helping. And it gets worse. It gets so much fucking worse.
It does. But at least they brought their dog.
Yeah, another Ben. The dog Ben is fantastic. He barks from the deck, alerting John to head up for an establishing shot, I guess, showing that they're alone.
Another piece of garbage, Ben. Hey. This dog sucks, man.
I love this dog.
There are so many times in this movie where this dog sucks.
He's just being a dog, man.
He is, but he's being a dog at the wrong times.
Hey, but he's just doing what Ray taught him.
I know you can't disagree with me. He barks when they don't want attention. We'll get to it. All
right. We see that Ray is taking sedatives. Fucking yeah. That much should be assumed. But a healthy dose of foreshadowing, of which we get a lot in this movie.
So is that how long they're supposed to stay on the boat till she needs a prescription refill?
I was thinking about that too. Can you imagine that conversation with the pharmacist? Be like, yeah, those sedatives, those really really strong ones. Look, I'm gonna need like 6 bottles of those tomorrow. Because I'm going on a vacation.
You know where you can stay pretty much in a sedative-induced coma? At home.
Yeah. Well, the next day she goes for a swim in the ocean. John helps her back on board, and she asks what day it is. And I love this. I fucking love this. I rewound this and watched it multiple times. And then to make sure I was right, I put on subtitles. When she asks what day it is, John says, I don't know, Thursday, Friday, one of those days with an I. So, Friday? I guess? If those are your 2 options, it's fucking Friday. And I couldn't find anywhere online about that line being flubbed. But if it's even in the subtitles, and to me it sounds like that's what he says, you fucked up, Sam.
I mean, I and Y is pretty close.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the intention. One of those days with a Y. Haha, we've heard that joke a million times, but...
Exactly. And I thought maybe it's because, like, this is a really weird cast, because Sam Neill was born in Ireland but raised in New Zealand. Nicole Kidman is Australian. This is her last Australian movie she did. And then we've got young Billy Zane, who at this point we only really know from Biff's friend in Back to the Future.
It's not much of a role.
Yeah, no. But they notice a black schooner adrift not too far away. John goes below deck to radio the vessel. And we learn here that they haven't seen another boat in 3 weeks. So how long have they been at sea?
And how far out are they?
And how much food do they have? Because we see food hanging in the galley. I assumed it's fruit, but it looks like onions. And this is where John's like, yeah, in the Navy, I never really brought the food. So my bad.
I just want to go back to this and say I would never go swimming in the middle of the ocean.
No, it's terrifying.
I have no idea where anything is.
No, nothing. And you don't know what's around you. If you haven't seen another boat in 3 weeks, you're nowhere near land.
Nowhere. Where are you sailing?
Stay on the boat.
Are you literally going from continent to continent? Because it just doesn't make sense.
And they're in the Pacific, which means fucking sharks, man.
Nope.
No. Well, there was a shark scene that was deleted, which thank God for that, because it combines 3 of my biggest fears in one scene.
You know how they could have added horror and thriller and suspense to this? Sharks.
Yeah, and thank God they didn't. I would be so mad at you right now if that's the movie you made me watch.
I'm sure you've watched Jaws.
Yeah, I have to close my eyes at certain parts. Oh. Even when I watch top 10 videos of I recently watched one that was top 10 horror villains with the most kills, and it opens with the shark eating Quint, and I couldn't look at the screen. If I had to do that in this movie and make notes so I couldn't look away, I'd be very angry.
I didn't even know that.
Which?
That you had a thing with sharks.
What are you talking about? Have I not told you that story?
No.
I was next to a shark attack when I was a kid.
I wouldn't have picked this movie even with the potential of it if I had known.
Yeah. No, it's the most terrifying experience of my life. I still have nightmares about it.
Well, we'll talk about that off episode, but there's no sharks.
When we do Jaws.
We're not doing Jaws.
It's double feature of Jaws and Candyman.
Not a chance. I quit the podcast.
Ray spots a dinghy rowing their way. And another problem I have here is that the shot over her shoulder has overcast gray skies, but the next shot looking at her, the skies are bright blue, almost zero clouds. The only excuse I'd be okay with is that it's hard to film continuity at sea, I guess. Also, that dinghy is close enough that you do not need binoculars to see it. You can see the schooner with the naked eye. When they look through the binoculars, it's directly in front of their face.
Yeah. It's kind of ambiguous, the distance.
All right. Well, it rose right into the side of the yacht.
It's not even looking.
No.
Just right into it.
And this is where we meet Huey Warner, played by the great William George Zane Jr. He immediately boards and heads below deck, crumpling into a ball in a corner and telling his story. He bought the boat 3 months ago with the plan of exploring the Pacific, and now the boat is sinking. Okay, it's a cool introduction for a character, I guess.
Makes sense why he would be there.
I have a question which contains a spoiler.
Well, the whole thing is a spoiler, so...
Yeah, why wouldn't Huey bring some sort of weapon with him when he left the schooner? Just kill them and take the yacht.
Was that his intention?
Well, he was going there to be saved, but he's so unhinged, he just attacks anyway. If he's already done what he had, or like what he did on the schooner, I mean, the bodies aren't exactly intact. So he had to use something. Just take that with him. He has a bag with him. Just take it. Make up an excuse as to why you have like a knife or something in your bag. Being like, I didn't know how I was going to survive.
I mean, that would work too. But I mean, there's a real fragility with his mental state.
Yeah.
And if you were to believe his statements that, like, he did it out of self-defense, then maybe he didn't anticipate any sort of violence on the part of Ray and John.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we get to it, but they lock him in a room first. Like, they essentially do the first quote-unquote hostile act. And
really, that would take out 2/3 of the movie right there if that was his intent. So, for story's sake, that definitely makes a lot more sense. I do have to bring up the age differences here, though.
Okie dokie.
So we got Sam Neill and Nicole Kidman as a married couple, the Ingrams. Sam Neill, 42, Nicole Kidman, 22. Billy Zane, 23. I wonder...
that one makes sense.
Yeah. But I was wondering if I was watching this movie, like, Sam Neill has about 20 credits to his name. Nicole Kidman, I think maybe 8, all lower budget Australian films, and Billy Zane, 3 or 4, always like a side character. I wonder if Sam Neill is like, oh, fuck, I have to carry this movie with these newcomers.
Well, I mean, in the trivia on IMDb, it does say that he was uncomfortable with the age difference.
Oh, well, that was because he has to, like, kiss Nicole Kidman on screen numerous times. When she was born, he was 20.
Yeah.
Either way, like, they're all competent actors, so I was just curious, though, because, like, that age difference will make you think differently.
And even the kissing that they do is desexualized. A lot of definitely. It is more comforting. It's not it's not sexually driven.
Yeah, and I think that is on purpose because of a later scene, which I'm not looking forward to talking about.
Mm-hmm.
John plans to board the schooner and tells Ray to put Huey to bed. Huey tells them that there were 5 others on the boat, but they all died 10 days ago from food poisoning. And now another problem. They all died in one day.
Well, he was the only one that didn't eat the canned salmon.
I guess. Again, like...
Because, you know, if you're going out into the ocean, you need to bring canned seafood.
Good call.
There's no other method of obtaining seafood.
Yeah. Before leaving, John goes through Huey's bag, and he finds his journal and photos of the others who were on board. The log's filled with notes about how there was no fresh food, nobody was sleeping, the motor was dead, and there was a lot of infighting. And as John flips through the pages, the more depraved the entries become. I really enjoyed that scene.
Well, even before that, doesn't Huey toss like all of the passports to them?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even try and hide that they're dead. I mean, he doesn't say he killed them, but he's like, they're all dead.
Yeah.
Here's their passports I collected for some reason. Like their trophies.
No, that was good, though, because when he gets back to shore, he can be like, these are the people I was with that died. It makes him almost look innocent.
Yeah.
John also, while flipping through the journal, finds a newspaper ad submitted by one passenger named Russell that just says, "Free South Sea Island cruise. 4 young women wanted for photo assignment. Must be attractive and broad-minded." Like, oh, okay. we know where this is going, right?
That's a completely different movie.
Yeah. John locks the sleeping Huey in the cabin and heads out, and Ben paws at a cabinet to get a tennis ball, just allowing us the reveal of a breakaway shotgun in the same cabinet, which is yet again more foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's super heavy-handed in this movie, man. I don't think I've ever really seen so much foreshadowing in one film. Yeah, actually, because right after this, Ray throws the ball overboard and the dog jumps after it.
Yep, because he can play fetch in the ocean.
Yeah, and who fucking knows how she gets the dog back on board, but she does it.
Bit of a problem between this, but yep.
Yep. Also, once John boards the schooner, a block swings out of nowhere and almost takes him out. What is up with that?
They just needed some sort of action moment.
Right? I think what could make that work is if there was somebody else on that boat who's still alive trying to take John out. And that would lead John to even believe more that, like, yeah, these people did go crazy. This guy who I've never met is trying to kill me. Huey's telling the truth. Maybe thought they had all died, but one guy survived. But no, it's just like a phantom block that swings down.
But we don't need John to believe Huey from this moment on. So it could have honestly been one of those people on their last legs thinking that it was Huey coming back.
And yeah, something like that. But like, give a reason as to how that just immediately lets go and almost kills him with perfect accuracy.
Yeah, or even like he steps onto a weak spot in the schooner, it cracks the floor, something comes loose. Like, we're not supposed to believe that the ship is in good shape.
No. But
No.
like, with this one scene, it's like, it makes us, or made me feel like, what, is this supposed to be like Ghost Ship? Like it's haunted or something? Let's please not go down that road. But John explores the destroyed and flooding ship. While back on the yacht, Huey wakes up and realizes he's locked in the cabin. He pleads for Ray to let him out and panics when he realizes she's steering the boat toward the schooner.
Mm-hmm.
Good acting from Billy Zane here.
Absolutely.
Just like perfect paranoia and fear.
And then he's just casually sitting in a chair, but shouting as if he's terrified.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be seasick. Let me out. I don't want to get sick in this room.
I need to go to the bathroom.
And his demeanor is just totally calm.
Yeah, super manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
John opens a hatch, releasing a wave of water from a flooded cabin and discovers the dismembered corpses of the passengers. He flees, boarding the dinghy, and rows like a madman trying to get back to the yacht. But Huey breaks out of the cabin, knocks out Ray, and sails off in the opposite direction. Naked, decapitated bodies.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one coming.
No.
Definitely makes Huey seem much more terrifying.
Yes.
And also John almost making it onto the yacht, but just misses when he jumps and falls in the ocean.
And just narrowly avoids the propeller of the boat, too.
Well, it cuts his arm.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it could have been a lot more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. His only hope is to row back to a sinking ship and try and fix it to stay alive. And spending hours manually pumping water out of it, it's a goddamn nightmare, man. Like, I'm feeling very uneasy at this point. Also, John pleading for Ray to jump, but she's already been knocked out, is, again, another heartbreaking scene.
This movie definitely knows how to hit you hard.
They do a great job at playing your emotions, for sure. It's still, like, to me, like, we're almost, it's safe to say halfway into the movie. It's played me pretty well, but I still don't know if I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you imagine how quickly we went through this half of the movie? Because it sounds like we're just skimming over things and nothing happens. But this movie is the slow burn of all slow burns.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, it's tough. It's a tough one to talk about. Obviously, I had no idea what the movie was like before going into it. But I don't know if I would have picked it otherwise, because it's very difficult to talk about it in depth at the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll see if when it all comes to light. But, like, trust me if you're listening to this. If you've watched up until now, which is about, like you said, like halfway through, it does keep you interested. And it is happening. There's just...
Yeah. It's so weird that way.
There's
like
just so many tension moments that we can't really talk about because they are extended.
Yeah. Like, this is all bullet point notes on my part, but these bullet points play out over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it did keep my interest, but at the same time, it felt like nothing was happening.
No. It doesn't feel like anything happens throughout the entirety of this movie, really.
Yeah. It's so weird. I don't know if it's good. But let's continue with the story.
Okay.
Ray wakes up to a dancing Huey who tells her that John is gone and only has himself to blame. Dancing Huey is an interesting visual in this.
Well, he can't dance.
He can't dance. The music sucks.
Like convulsing Huey.
So carefree.
It's like he really is unhinged. The gravity of all of the things that have happened don't faze him.
No, not at all.
He can still take the time to just dance a jig.
It's more ignorance than anything, I find. Because left to his own, he's a super happy guy. But if you confront him with his reality, he gets super angry and aggressive. Which also leads me to a problem I have with Ray. But we'll go back to Dancing Huey right now.
Okay. What more can you say about Dancing Huey? He was dancing. Not well.
That's just the intro to this one scene. Because Ray seems much less scared than she should be. Speaking as if nothing really happened.
And she tries to ask him, like, did it sink? And he's like, hold on. Let me finish this song.
Yeah.
We got time.
And he even goes so far as to talk about his past in art school, and the bone structure of Ray's face really shows how psychotic this character is. Because he can just shut off a part of his reality and live in another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his brain is segmented.
His charisma, his charisma, like he is so charismatic. Like, and this is young Billy Zane early in his career. This is still what, 5 years before we get Demon Knight, maybe even more than that. But you can see the Collector in this performance. Not so much what's his name, the character he played in Titanic, but letting Billy Zane go be Billy Zane is one of the smartest things you can do if you can get him for your movie. And this just shows it. Like, he is, I don't want to say great because he's a terrible character, but he's the most interesting of the three, if you ask me.
Who else is he supposed to be?
What do you mean?
Well, let him be Billy Zane. Okay.
Yeah, he's such a unique actor. Like, you see a lot of the same character come through in every role he plays, which leads me to believe that is partially Billy Zane, and the directors are like, yeah, you do you, man, and I'll give you some pointers as you go.
Fair.
Yeah. I like to talk about Ray. She's undeniably a very strong character, but her approach to this situation is confusingly passive. Did you pick up on any of that?
Well, I feel like she's gone through so much trauma that she's almost desensitized to it at this point.
Yeah, but she goes back and forth between being forceful and agreeable. And I think that's probably the worst thing you could do with an unhinged person is be unpredictable around them. But I don't know. The delusional Huey admits to killing the other passengers because they were going to kill him. And we see some video later on that leads me to believe that could possibly be the case.
Maybe.
But
they really keep that ambiguous.
Yeah, they do a great job at that. And then just kind of falter on it later. But the next scene really confuses me too. And I shouldn't say really, it just seems off. Because Ray goes to her cabin and smiles, like a really big smile when she looks at the bed, and then just crawls onto it and curls up into a ball. And yeah, it might be a smile out of relief to be in her own bed, but it just feels wrong.
I mean, and at this point, she's asking Huey if the other ship sank, where she knows that John is. And he says, well, if it's sinking, and he says past tense. Right? Essentially telling her, yeah, he's dead. Why is she smiling?
Yeah.
Now her husband's gone too.
It doesn't,
as far as she knows.
It doesn't work. John gets the motor running on the schooner. A TV turns on, and he discovers that the purpose of the schooner's trip is basically Girls Gone Wild, if the ad didn't suggest that to him previously. And this is something I was talking about earlier. Like, Huey's been recording everything on video, and here he seems oddly enough to be the voice of reason. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, no, he definitely was.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if he was antagonized to the point of just snapping.
Again, they keep it ambiguous.
Yeah. John sets course in pursuit of Ray, and at 40, okay, we're 43 minutes into the movie now. We get something that I found very rare in a thriller, which is hope. I find this to be really good filmmaking, because I just felt like this movie beats you down scene after scene after scene, and then we get a glimmer that John might actually make it back before the very end of the movie. And now I'm not only am I excited for the character to reconnect with his wife, but I'm excited because I feel like the movie just took a twist and is now going to be, again, something else I never expected it to be. But
the movie knows what it's doing. This is very deliberate. It leaves the vulnerable person with Huey, and it leaves the Navy man who can fix a boat, probably fight Huey off, in pursuit.
Yep.
It knows what it's doing.
It's very manipulative to the viewer, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if the movie can play you, the audience, into following what it's doing, that's great filmmaking. But follow through with it, please.
There's a reason that the dog is a small, kind of cute animal rather than like they had a Great Dane.
Yeah, sure is.
Because they, again, needed an animal that couldn't fight back because they had to leave the vulnerabilities with Huey.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I don't like it, but that's definitely what they did. While Huey's distracted, Ray tries to radio John. Yeah, he's trying to fix his radio and does make contact, but it's mainly static. So they come up with a 1-2 click yes/no communication to form a plan to get Ray to stop the boat. And the amazing plan: stop the motor. Fucking genius. But yeah, she just takes the key. Like, simple, yeah, it sounds dumb, but I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the cat and mouse chase between Huey and Ray. I thought that was brilliant and actually quite suspenseful.
She throws the key into the ocean.
Yep.
And the dog goes and gets it. We saw the foreshadowing of playing fetch.
Mm-hmm.
If the dog didn't go get it, how are they going to get out of there?
Oh, they're stuck there forever.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, is there no other option you could have had to hide that key?
Yeah. It's a big boat. You could have just stashed it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Huey assaults Ray, who runs below deck and locks herself in the head. Huey pounds on the door until he calms down and then gently knocks, asking if they can be friends, and Ray agrees. Slightly confusing for me. And this is the back and forth that I was complaining about earlier, where she's incredibly forceful and aggressive and then super agreeable and passive. Like, you're definitely going to set this guy off.
Maybe she's noticing that and realizing, like a wounded animal, you have to be calm with him.
Yeah. But like, even watching the movie, as an audience, we only know as much as she does at this point, and I know I picked up on that right away. I don't know if you did. No? Am I just looking too much into this?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, a storm's approaching, and back on the schooner, John realizes that the leak's getting worse. He hears Ray on the radio and lets her know through the clicks that the schooner will sink in roughly 6 hours.
It's interesting how he knows that.
Well, I mean, I guess you could assume based off how high the water is rising, like how quickly.
It's a pretty accurate estimate.
It is pretty accurate. Time seems to not really matter in this movie, though.
We didn't really talk about how the dog retrieved the key. I mean, I said he went for the key.
Yeah, he dove in, grabbed it, swam back, And it took a while for Billy Zane to get him out of the ocean.
But you can see that like they're both calling to the dog.
Yeah.
Right? And there's almost like a tug of war with no rope. The dog is the one that's choosing between them. And just, I don't know, like the dog ultimately picks Huey, right?
Well, the dog doesn't understand. He's like, I'm just doing the thing that you trained me to do. And
but she trained him to do it, not Billy. I mean, there's a lot to be said about familiarity with these animals. And I can't imagine that helps Ray feel any less abandoned.
That's a tough one, though, man, because the dog knows that if he jumps in the water and retrieves something, he takes it back.
Yes.
And he's getting that appreciation and cheer from somebody. He doesn't know who it is. And I'm pretty sure that if Ray ever told the dog to not bring the ball back to the boat after she threw it in the water, it would still do it.
I don't know. My knowledge of dogs retrieving things that they fetch is that they bring it back to the thrower.
Yeah. But I mean, at that same point, whoever throws something for a dog and then is like, don't bring it back. I don't think any dog would be like, oh, fuck. I guess I'll just stay. I know stay. That's a good one. I don't know. I found that whole thing weird. But on the schooner, the video that's playing has shown us enough that it seems like Huey wasn't the only one who went crazy. It seems like he seems very rational at first in the video that we saw beforehand. But the arguments between Huey and Russell are getting way too over the top and extremely heated. And it feels like Russell is antagonizing him.
I honestly wouldn't have even been surprised if we found out later that Russell killed all the girls and then Huey just snapped and killed Russell.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Right? That would make perfect sense.
But it keeps it so ambiguous as to what happened on that boat. That like the thing that I'm constantly thinking of is like, is Huey a victim? Did he get his mind broken over there by like what other people did?
I could easily see that. I was trying to figure out his origin, man. And yeah, that really does work because he seems to be wholeheartedly invested into everybody having a good time. He's trying to, recommend best camera angles and have fun and like connect with everybody. And then as time goes on, he's just degrading mentally more and more and more until he's a murderous maniac. Like, I want to know more about this movie. And this is a perfect...
Again, he could have just been the one that killed Russell almost in self-defense.
Exactly.
He watched what happened to the other girls. And then you figure he spends a period of time on this sinking boat by himself with a bunch of corpses.
Yeah. Okay, this leads me to a question for you.
Okay.
Who is the lead of this movie? And who should be the lead of this movie?
I feel like Ray is the lead in the movie.
I think so too, but I feel like we're supposed to believe it's John.
I feel like that's what we're supposed to believe, but I never got that impression. As soon as he left for the schooner, I was very much set on Ray is the main character.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, but I don't think that was the intent. I would prefer if Huey was the lead, because honestly, of the three, much more interesting story.
Yeah, but that story would have to start on the other ship because
yes,
there would definitely be some levels there.
I mean, that would be a great companion film, is Dead Calm told from Huey's perspective. All right, fan fiction. The next part of the movie really fucked me up. Did the distraught Ray seduce Huey?
Yes.
I agree. And it makes me really uncomfortable.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I don't even really want to talk about this scene. It's rough. She uses the excuse of having to go to the bathroom to leave and goes to get the shotgun. The plan doesn't work, and she ends up below deck again, where the two have sex, as we cut to John somberly walking through the flooding schooner, trying to figure out how to repair the boat. I think the creepy thing about that scene is how passionate it was, like creepy passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And like I read in trivia that Billy Zane legit just tore Kidman's shorts off with his hands. Like that's a lot.
This movie knows how to get you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like I'm watching it and I'm like, but he's not really taking it upon himself because she is enticing him.
Yes.
It's a really messed up scene.
Super fucked up. Because from what I remember, she initiates it, but is the victim, but he doesn't seem to understand what's going on. It's so fucked up, man. I don't know. Just moving on.
Okay.
The storm is now in full effect, and lightning strikes the mast, causing the boom to snap off of the schooner, which smashes through the deck and barricades John in the engine room. As John tries to break down the door, I'm just fucking supplied with more nightmare fuel.
This is a tough scene, man.
Yeah. How bad do you feel for John at this point?
Pretty bad, but not
like the shit running through his mind.
Yeah. Well, even just imagine, like, I don't know if it's this moment yet, where he's frantically trying to pump water out as he's running out of space. Is that now or is that later?
No, it's coming up.
Okay. But like even that alone with nothing else involved would be mentally heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to somebody afraid of the ocean, this movie is terrifying. But I understand that's my phobia, not the movie itself. 1 hour, 5 minutes, 55 seconds into the movie. I'm not sure what lens they're using, but the way this shot is filmed is like they're using a mild fisheye. Sorry, excuse me. The shot of the yacht has the water higher at the sides of the screen, making it feel like the yacht is lower than the horizon, which is really adding to my claustrophobia and aquaphobia at this point.
This movie knows what it's doing. It's very deliberate in a lot of these decisions.
It is. And that's a problem for me because I feel like it's so self-aware that it should be more effective throughout and not just in certain bits and pieces. Has it been like equally effective for you from start until this point?
I would say it didn't hit me as hard as it did you, but I don't have a phobia to boost that.
Well, it just kind of seems like a yo-yo where like it's so ridiculously over the top and confusing and then so grounded and terrifying that I can't find a middle ground. Anyway, Ray makes lemonade, doses it with her sedatives, and makes Huey drink it. She goes to get dressed, but is actually going up to get to try and get the shotgun again.
Spear gun, right? No, shotgun.
No, shotgun. John's been in the storm for a while now, and they're not that far away. Like he's just on the horizon of the yacht. So this also confused me. This is like the craziness. Like either liberties were taken with the script, or this is the slowest moving storm ever and only affects the water directly below it.
It's got to be that one, man.
It has to be, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The sedatives start to take effect as Ray approaches Huey with the shotgun. He manages to grab a hold of it, and neither of them refusing to let go. He slams her around the galley, eventually shrugging her off as the gun fires. Problems with this scene right off the bat, man. Okay. Both of them would be so messed up by this. There's no fucking way you're hanging on to a shotgun as it fires and be fine. Have you ever fired a shotgun before?
No, come on, man.
Oh, the fucking recoil on that shit is insane. Like, it will kick back into your shoulder hard. Like,
is it the same as like a super soaker? I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar. But like, they're holding onto the barrel when that fires off. Your hand's fucked. The recoil would just throw you to the side, which doesn't happen. But Huey, now seeing double, laughs maniacally and fires the gun. The weird thing, though, is he shows immediate regret after doing it, but then lunges at her. Like, the character's completely snapped at this point, yes?
I feel like he snapped a while ago.
I guess. I think it was more he was angry when he realized he was sedated. And I think it was the fight with the gun where he's like, all right, now it's fucking on. I don't know. That's just me. The sea has become angry, rocking the yacht from side to side. The two get thrown about. Ray grabs a spear gun and retreats to her cabin. Yep. Don't like this scene.
Nope.
Huey tries to break down the door and she fires the spear gun. And I totally called this. We don't see it yet, but we hear it.
Yeah, I called it. I called it right away too. Yeah.
And she's killed Ben. And how fucked up is that, man? Huey held that poor dog against the door in anticipation that she was going to shoot at him.
Mm-hmm.
Ray slowly opens the door, and Huey rushes her. He chokes her, but passes out before he can kill her. And we didn't need to see this, man.
Nope.
But the door slowly swings closed. Not fully, but almost closed. And we see Ben's corpse pinned to the door.
This movie, like, nothing happens, but it takes you on an emotional ride.
Yeah, nothing happens, but it ruins you emotionally. It's just fucking weird. I know, I'm reiterating your point. Cut to an exhausted John in the engine room trying to pump the water out. And now it kind of like steps up a bit here with like scene cuts.
Is this where it's almost at like the top of the room and he's just
soon, very soon. Ray nails the hatch covers shut and tries to start the boat, but no luck. So she decides to raise the sails. Now we're getting to the point. This is probably the most stressful part of the movie for me. Ray's been sailing for what seems like hours, and John's almost out of air. A now bound Huey wakes up, and I don't know why she didn't fucking hog tie him. Don't tie him up with his hands in front of him. But this is the point you were talking about. John is now completely submerged in the engine room. Has to break a pipe, which leads to the deck just to find air, forcing cockroaches out of the other end to clear it so he can breathe.
Can you imagine the feeling in that situation where all that pumping you're doing, it's just slowing it down?
Yeah.
And
can you imagine the insurance rates on this movie?
Like,
fuck.
That is a horrible like, this guy's gonna drown.
It's so dark. Yeah, it's just a matter of when. Because there's nothing he can do. He can't pump any more water out. All he can do is try and breathe from the pipe that's exposed above deck. And when the ship goes down, he dies.
Yep.
That's it.
I feel like in that situation, he might be trying to get out instead of pump out. But I mean, like, yeah, he got trapped in there, but like,
and we have to say too, he has been trying to get out. He tried to just force that door open, ram it open, definitely injuring himself because he's throwing his full body against that steel door.
Hey, this is a shoulder that he got cut with a propeller.
Yeah, like this character is never say die. Like, he is a fucking champion and he is a hero, and he shows it through everything that he tries to do to survive.
And we'll see about that.
Yeah. Well, Huey kicks apart the door only to realize he has another one to get through. And now night has fallen. And I don't understand how he does this, but John kicks a hole in the bottom of the schooner and escapes.
I don't know.
Now, I want to assume
I don't know.
That's where the leak started, but...
Well, I mean, Huey does say earlier there's holes everywhere.
Yeah.
And that they're getting worse. So
I guess
you can assume that that's one of the spots and that kind of loosened it, that he could kick through. But
also, you're not doing anything with force underwater.
No, you can't get any momentum.
No, I it really dropped the ball at this point, I think.
Not to
and
mention
this one
the pressure of the water on the outside is going to be much higher.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. But somehow he manages to do it, like kicks a hole through large enough for him to escape through, and then builds a raft out of the debris and sets the schooner ablaze, creating a signal fire, or a beacon, if you will. Ray spots the fire and changes course as Huey is sawing away at his ropes with a piece of broken mirror. Frees himself and smashes through the door with a fire extinguisher, only for Ray to shoot him with her spear gun. She knocks him out, throws a life raft overboard, and dumps him into it.
How long would you say he was hog-tied and out of it in the cabin floor?
Doesn't seem that long, does it?
That's the worst fucking sedatives ever.
Yeah. And she used like the rest of the bottle on him.
Yeah.
Which means she probably got more than 6 bottles, like I said at the beginning of this episode. It's just, I don't know.
I think we found the placebos. That doctor didn't give her a shit.
Yeah. No, I don't know, man. It's a definite weak point in the story, which is coming at the climax. Like it's weird. I don't know. A short while later, Ray spots John's raft, and John's not doing too well, man.
Nope.
He's not looking good. But I mean, like, think about everything he's been through, like the physical trauma, the mental trauma. Like, is my wife okay? Will I ever see her again? Am I going to die in here? And just the physical exhaustion he's going through. But Ray pulls John aboard. At dawn, they return to the life raft, but find it empty. Ray fires 2 flares at it, setting it on fire and sinking it. But panning to the other side of the boat, we see a rope hanging overboard and bloody handprints leading up to the deck.
Bullshit.
Yeah, right? Sometime later, Ray's swimming in the ocean again. Fucking don't do that. We've been over that. She boards the yacht and John rinses the salt water out of her hair. He leaves to tend a boiling kettle and prepare breakfast. Bloody hands appear on screen and continue washing Ray's hair, revealing the still living Huey. He tries to choke her with a towel, but John shoots him in the face with a flare, knocking him overboard and finally killing him. Fade to black and roll credits. What a shitty death scene.
They sure got over that pretty quickly before Huey showed up there again. Here's this traumatic event where she was essentially held captive. He was trapped in a ship. And their first reaction is not, all right, let's get out of here. It's, oh, let's go for a swim and talk about what we want to have for dinner.
Yeah. I'll make breakfast. Don't worry about it. Let's fantasize about the foods that we want.
No, head for shore. What are you doing? Your trip is done.
Like, this ending is so fucking ridiculous. Like, as the scene was fading to black, I really wanted John to be like, where's Ben? Because like it does not fit with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
The fucking flare to the mouth? Come on, man. That was awful.
Yeah.
Like the most action we got in this movie was worse than the non-action we got for almost the entire rest of the movie.
I would have much rather that he was thrown into the life raft by them at the end.
Yes.
And then
left to die.
Not left to die. As they're sailing away, that's when she shoots holes into the boat.
Okay.
So now not only is he, away from the ship in the middle of the ocean, they're leaving, but now he's on a sinking life raft. Take that. Yep.
That's much better than what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently the original ending was she dumps him into the raft and just leaves him. Yeah,
I'd even take that. Have some ambiguity. You've not shied away from ambiguity during the course of the movie as it is, and don't show if he lives or dies. But he's definitely nowhere near them anymore.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I'm really glad you picked this movie because I don't think I've ever been so conflicted over whether or not I like or dislike one so much. There's so many strong points, but so many weak points that they just kind of counteract each other, and I'm left just kind of confused.
Yeah.
Are you glad that you picked this one? Like, I know it was like just a blind. No, okay, interesting. Yeah. Why is that?
It's not the kind of movie that should be analyzed.
You're right. It isn't.
I
That's
wish
a very
I didn't
good
pick
call.
it. I wish I didn't pick it, and we just, got together and watched it together or something. But it's not a movie that I would have wanted to put under a telescope if I had known ahead of time what kind of movie it was.
Yeah, I mentioned it to a friend earlier today that we were covering this evening. And he's like, "Oh yeah, that one. Did you like it?" And I could only respond with, "I don't know. I'm glad I saw it, but I don't know if it's good. It's got a lot of good elements. It's like good writing, good cast. The story is interesting yet slow, but something is keeping me from loving this movie. And I'm not sure what's missing."
It's hard to say. Yeah.
Did you know this isn't the first time someone tried to make this movie?
Obviously, I did not.
Yeah, it's based off a book by Charles Williams, but in the 60s, Orson Welles tried to adapt it to film. It was called The Deep, but it was never completed. I'm very curious to know what that would have been like. This movie made in the 60s, I think, could work better, because I feel like in certain areas they could have gone further just based off the fact that it would have been in the late 80s. You can get away with a bit more. In the 60s, I think if you had a more reserved story, this would have been more effective. I don't know. Also, the book has more characters. Like, Huey has a family in the book.
Oh.
And it actually gives insight as to the reasoning for his breakdown. So I might actually pick up the book and just get those answers that we were both curious, like that we both had questions about. Yeah. Billy Zane, though.
Yes.
Pretty fucking good. I don't know if anybody else could have really played that character that well. I mean, Nicole Kidman, I think you could replace Sam Neill and Nicole Kidman with anybody and still have Billy Zane in the role as Huey, and it'd be as good of a movie. Agree or disagree?
I don't think you could replace Nicole Kidman with anybody.
Really? Okay.
Because you do need a strong female that's more fighting through her trauma and vulnerabilities than the actual opponent that is Huey.
Yeah.
And I don't think it could just be anybody. It would definitely have to be very selective.
Yeah. And I was joking about the age differences at the beginning of the episode. But having Nicole Kidman at 22 and Billy Zane at 23, I think really, really works for the characters and like her attempt at survival, and having the older Sam Neill as the experienced survivalist Navy officer really worked for him. Like, it was more believable that he was that resilient and knowledgeable about certain things. So maybe intentional ageism, if that's a thing.
I mean, we know what the numbers are, but on screen, they don't look that far apart. Right? Like, if somebody told me that Sam Neill was 10 years younger when he did this movie, I'd probably believe them.
I'm going to have to disagree, but okay. Do you want to try and get into some numbers here?
Sure.
Because I tried to guess them before looking at them. I got it way fucking wrong, man.
Oh, okay.
So budget 10.4 million estimated by IMDb, or 10 million Australian according to Wikipedia. Care to take a guess at the gross for the 10.4 million?
17.
7.8. Yep. But in Australia, I don't know how this works. It had a budget of 10 million and grossed 10.2 million.
Okay.
Yeah. It's weird, right?
So what you're saying is we don't have accurate numbers.
Oh, God, no. This is all I could find, and it doesn't add up. I think the rating system here also, it confuses me. On IMDb, this is sitting at a 6.8.
Okay. I can see that.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The movie is divisive enough that I can see people not liking it and giving it low reviews. I can see people liking it and giving it high reviews. But I can also see some people that are kind of not quite in the middle, but a little bit above, because they're like, the movie's just okay. But they do some things like the psychological aspects so well. I'm leaning towards a 6 instead of a 5. I can definitely see it.
Yeah. It's almost like that feeling of going into a movie that you've been waiting for a long time, and then realizing after like the hour and a half mark that there's going to be a part 2 and you're not getting the full story. So you're like, what I saw was pretty good, but it's still missing the ending. Like, I feel like this movie is missing something. But like a 6.8 to me, like I would love to give it a 7 or 7.5. I don't know if I'd go 6.8. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 63, a bit closer to how I'm feeling. But for some reason, the tomato meter's at 83%.
That's a little high.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure this is 6-7 territory based on how you feel about certain aspects of it.
It's just like it's a good story that somehow feels empty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let's pop into awards, my friend.
Sure. What did you have for your least favorite character? Not a lot of options in such a small cast.
Yeah, and I really hate that I'm gonna have to say this, but it's Huey Warner, played by Billy Zane.
Okay.
I love Billy Zane. I have way too many problems with this character. He doesn't work with the movie. We need more backstory, more reasoning to why he wasn't smarter with what he did. Like, he seems calm, cool, calculated, and then crazy. He's basically the Joker, but he does everything wrong. And while, yeah, he has the physical advantage over Ray, he is not intimidating whatsoever to me. And it sucks. It sucks because I love Billy Zane so much. He plays the character very well. It's just, I don't like the character.
I don't think he's supposed to appear intimidating. I think that's part of it, is that you don't know.
No, I'm not. It's not that he doesn't appear intimidating. He just isn't, even when he's trying to be.
Okay.
Yeah. I know you're going to have a different answer.
I picked Sam Neill as John Ingram, and I think that John Ingram is a terrible person.
A terrible person. Interesting.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, man. Go for it. Let me hear it.
There's two main reasons. One, right near the beginning of the movie, she says, I want to go home. And he says no. I don't care what the doctors say. If your traumatized wife who watched your kid fly through the windshield says that this is not the therapy for her, you turn that boat around and you leave.
Yeah.
The second time would be when he's like, I don't trust this Huey guy. So I'm going to leave you alone with him on this boat and go to the schooner.
Yeah. He's
You're
locked in the cabin.
That's not enough. Like, I'm not, if you don't trust him, there's a reason for it, and you don't leave her alone on the ship with him.
Fair enough.
You know what would have worked better? If when she and he weren't paying attention, he just kind of like knocked him off the ship. And, he hits the propeller, something. You know what I mean? Like,
he doesn't know that he's a killer at that point, though.
Doesn't matter. You have a reason for not trusting him.
So you kill him?
Oh, no. I'm saying if Huey knocked John into the water, and that's why he had to go to the schooner, because he was left behind.
Yes.
Right? That would make more sense. Otherwise, you've created a scenario where this supposed caring Navy husband just leaves his vulnerable wife on the ship with someone that he has a gut feeling about
No, that makes perfect sense. Well, what I originally thought is that you're like Sam Neill's thought is once Huey's on board, he's like, let's just fucking kill him and throw him overboard.
No.
I mean, that would be an interesting movie for sure.
Right? Like, you could have honestly locked the cabin and turned your ship around to go to the schooner.
Yep.
You literally willingly abandoned your wife on that ship. Yes, you thought you were coming back, but that is a piece of garbage spouse, in my opinion.
All right.
I think that's a very valid reason to not like the character.
You're not wrong. Who's your favorite?
I had Huey Warner.
Okay.
And I'm going based on, which we've left this as an option, performance, not character. I think that nobody could have played this character as well as Billy Zane. I think that, amongst, some more seasoned actors at the time of this movie, he really held his own and in fact carried the movie. I think even just examples of like when he was in the cabin and he was calling out for help and his voice sounded frantic, but his body looked completely calm. Fantastic performance. Huey Warner has to be my favorite just because of performance. Great
performance, undeniably. And if I was going off performance, I'd agree with you 100%. But I'm just going off of character. I'm going with Ray Ingram.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman, there's so much going on with her character, and I feel like they could have done a lot more. But I found in every scene she was in, I was anticipating her next move. Like, her character worked with the story really well. Some poor decisions made, undeniably. But I was always more focused on what she would do than what Huey would do, than what Sam would do. I wanted to know how this young woman dealing with this horrible trauma of her child dying and now being on a yacht in the ocean with a murderer, how she would react. And while I'm not 100% on board with how they wrote the character, it was very interesting and incredibly enjoyable, if not slightly problematic, but definitely my favorite character of the three.
If I wasn't going based on performance, I would have gone with Ray as well.
Yeah.
But I can't deny that performance, and we've given ourselves that window to have that as a reason. So, what did you have for your most memorable or favorite line?
Well, I know I had said that Huey's my least favorite character, but he's got some bangers of lines, man. So I've got one of his, and it's right after he boards the yacht, and it goes against everything you learn about him as the movie progresses. And as he's going to the bedroom, he's like, I'm really sorry to ruin your day, you know, because that's all he does for the rest of the movie. I loved it. It was great. And again, foreshadowing, man. Like, this movie is so fucking heavy with foreshadowing. See, I've never seen another film do that. And it fucking works.
I feel like he's such a deep villain because there are multiple different kinds of villains in the world. You compared him kind of to like the Joker, but the Joker almost wants to just see the world burn, right? There's a section of villains where they're doing villainous things, but in their mind, in their twisted perception of reality, they're doing it for the right reasons, or they're doing the right thing and just doing it the wrong way. And I feel that he veers more towards that. I really do believe that when he got on that ship, he was apologetic for ruining the day. He's fragile. This is thin ice, is his psyche.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take him a lot to push him over. But at that time, he's thinking, these are nice people. They're going to help me get to shore. He doesn't intend to. And when they lock him in, again, somebody that's maybe of more like able mind could logically be like, oh,
yeah,
okay, you didn't trust me. You needed to check it out. Fine. But he doesn't have that buffer. His mind is so fragile that it's just, they're out to get me. And he snaps.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's defending himself. And that's why he's naive enough to believe Ray when she says things like, I want to be your friend. Because he's grasping at straws. Like he's that last shred of sanity. He's hoping for it. And he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. He just doesn't have the capability to perceive the levels beyond white and black.
Yeah, agreed. I really think, too, that if Huey survived this movie, he would eventually become a character very much like the Collector in Demon Knight. Because you've got that humor with him, but you also have that ruthlessness. And then becoming self-aware of where you are in life and what you're doing and who you are. That is the Collector. Like, you flip that one little switch, and we've got the Billy Zane that we love from Tales from the Crypt. But what was your most memorable line?
So it's also when Huey comes to the ship. However, it's before that when he's still frantic. And he says, and this is going to seem very unassuming, but bear with me. He says, the others died 10 days ago.
Yes.
And this line just makes me want to know more and more what happened on that ship. What led to this mental state? Because even, let's say hypothetically, they really did die just from food poisoning, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I don't know, whatever, the mutilated bodies, I don't know, whatever. Just pretend that they were intact, right? That alone, 10 days, unable to essentially fix a sinking ship by yourself, corpses around you, that's enough to break a person.
Yeah.
Right? And it's why, like, I want to see the movie that is what happens on that ship. Like, imagine a movie that is entirely that other ship, recruiting girls, having a good time. Somebody goes insane and kills everybody else. And this movie ends when he essentially escapes and finds another ship, we could say John and Ray's, and he's safe, and they take him to land, and he is like the surviving hero of the story.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, man. Like, imagine a counterpart film where everything is told from Billy Zane's point of view. Because we still, like, we're led to believe what went down on that boat was his fault. But we don't know that for sure.
Nope. The only thing that makes you... Because the thing is, they show the mutilated bodies, but it's like, Russell could have done that.
Russell was the only one who was decapitated. So that could have easily been like a fucking rage kill for Billy Zane.
But yeah.
When he snapped after Russell killed the girls.
Exactly.
Like you said earlier, like that is entirely possible. And we have no reason to believe that isn't the case. They just set him up as the villain without an explanation. So it's a very interesting setup for all three of these characters, but we never get the answers we need to satisfy our questions, our wonder. I don't know, man. Maybe this movie is worth analyzing. Maybe just the characters, not the actual plot.
It's hard to say.
It really is. What about memorable scene for you?
Dancing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It'll stick with me visually because he can't dance. And probably intentionally. I would have to imagine.
It's a terrible song, too.
But then there's also that aspect of, like, this guy is messed up. Like,
he's just having fun, though, man. He doesn't care. He can't dance. He's listening to bad music, but he's still going to listen to it and he's going to dance to it. He's having a time.
Even though, like, ignore everything that happened on that other ship, knocking her out in a very hostile exchange, and then you're just like, cool, let's dance now.
Yeah.
You?
I would say that is the best scene.
Okay.
The most memorable scene is the one that's been giving me fucking nightmares since I watched this movie the first time. And that is John completely submerged in the engine room. Sorry, trying to breathe through a pipe. That stayed with me, and that has cost me sleep.
I'm sorry, man.
That's okay.
I really didn't know.
That's totally fine.
You pick a random movie from a list. That's what happens.
The things I do for the show. No, it was. Well, okay, I'll let you start. Like, final thoughts on the movie. Would you recommend it? Would you not? Did you enjoy it? Did you not?
This is a movie that I would say you can watch once. You can't watch it twice.
Yeah. And
quite frankly, it's hard to recommend because it really is a crapshoot. 50% of people are going to say they like it. 50% are going to say that they hate it. There's, much like Huey's mental state, there's no gray area. It's white or black. And there's absolutely no way to predict which side of the fence you're going to fall on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those movies where if I'm talking to somebody who hasn't seen it and the movie comes up, I'm not going to recommend it. But if it comes up and they have seen it, I would like to talk with them about it. But I won't recommend this movie, which sucks because it has so much potential and great actors and great writing, great directing, but it's lacking heavily in something I still haven't identified yet. And it's just unfulfilling. I really wanted to like this, man. I really did.
Yeah, you seemed excited for it last week.
Yeah. Well, I've always wanted to see it. And then I started thinking about it and I thought I did and then watched it and then no, I hadn't. I'm glad that I did see it, but I don't think I'm going to ever watch it again.
No, me neither. That's why I said my recommendation is watch it once.
Well, it was checked off of a list of films I haven't seen yet. So thank you for picking that one. But
I will say,
how weird.
I will say this. If you decide to watch the movie, it's not a difficult watch. It's really not.
It's a very passive experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you really want to get into Huey's story, then you can have fun with that. But it's such a slow burn. And then it just ends. You're like, all right, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. But another one checked off. So,
all right. Well, that was our thoughts on Dead Calm. If you guys want to share your thoughts, you can hit us up on social media. We are on Twitter at BS Bargain Bin, Facebook.com/BS Bargain Bin. You can always leave comments in the YouTube section. Really would be interested to hear people's thoughts on this one.
Yeah, definitely.
But also not that interested in revisiting it. So that's kind of weird. Anyway, well, that was my pick. My first of the Sandro selections that will take place after the fan picks. Well, maybe it'll go better next time.
Yeah, and definitely come at me if you want to talk about this movie because I'm just super curious to hear what anyone wants to say about it.
Awesome.
But good pick, man. It was a good pick. I enjoyed this conversation.
It was a real gamble. That being said, you know what movie we are watching next week, so why don't you tell us?
This was a tough one, man. I'm still torn. I'm picking right now. Do you want to do a 2-hour movie or an 80-minute movie?
Well, you know I'm always going to say the 80-minute movie, man.
Okay. Well, that means that next week we'll be talking about the 1991 martial arts action film Showdown in Little Tokyo.
For over 400 years, they've developed their own mysterious traditions. For over 400 years, they've had a strict code of honor and unparalleled standards of respect. For over 400 years, they have terrorized the streets of Japan. Now, they want to control the city of Los Angeles. Determined to leave their mark in blood. Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee are ready for a showdown in Little Tokyo. They're two LA cops who are hungry for a little takeout. Dolph Lundgren, Brandon Lee. showdown in Little Tokyo.
All right. Until next week, have a good one.
All the best, guys.